लाइव है क्या हम लोग फेसबुक वगैरह में? So I guess we are live. Hi guys, good evening. Join in. Yes, yes, we are live. Hi guys, good evening again. Join in. Today we are gonna talk with Prayag Biswal, who is currently pursuing his PhD at Cornell University. So Prayag, if you can tell us more about yourself, your previous education, and your journey till now.
Sure. So I did my bachelor's in chemical engineering from IIT Kharagpur, and I graduated in 2017. And from then I applied to grad universities for PhD, mostly in United States and Canada. And I came to Cornell to start my PhD in chemical and biomolecular engineering. And past 3 years I have been here, and this is my final year, hopefully. and and I basically work. My undergraduate background was mostly in research background was mostly in microfluidics and similar systems which concerns fluid flow and heat transfer. And my grad topics are though entirely different. It's in electrochemistry and battery development or battery engineering. So that's my little
awesome.
bio.
And what is your application process like?
So the application processes were actually quite straightforward. In the department itself, there were a couple of seniors who were trying to get into PhD programs here, and I followed them. So it started right away. Actually, I decided I will do a PhD at around the end of my second year when I got an internship with the Indian Academy of Sciences, and so it was in IIC Bangalore. And after that, I started building my resume accordingly. I applied for research internships all across the world. So, and I got one in Canada. And from there on, it was the summer of 2016, so 1 year prior to joining here. And that's the ripe time. It was like 6 months time frame to the application procedure. And that was the ripe time to prepare for GRE. I took a lot of help from my advisor then, the undergraduate advisor, because his suggestions were quite valuable of what universities to choose. I had a GPA of about 9.2, if I remember, 9.2 or 9.3 on a scale of 10. And my department rank was about, it was oscillating between 2 and 3. So I decided to apply for 10 universities in total, out of which 2 were in Canada. And the 8 rest were in United States, out of which again I divided it like the way, say, 3 of them were ambitious in the sense they were in top 20, and then the other 5 were about top 20 to top 100. So the division actually helped a lot. The division of universities of which I am going to apply to. The top 20 to top 100 were quite easy to take on. Means the application procedure was similar for all, but the results were easier, like quite in time, I will say. But the top 3 were harder, and I luckily got into one of the top 3. I got rejections from 2 of them, MIT and Stanford, so I came to Cornell. But yeah, so that's how it went. And few of the things one should consider would be starting to prepare for the GRE right away in the summer. So I have seen after coming here that the main consideration always goes to your GPA, the CGPA you have when you are studying in your undergrad, and you should try your best to have the best grades in the core courses as much as possible. The main reason is that the university selectors here, the professors here, they feel like, so once you join here, you have to appear an exam that's called the Q exam, the qualifier, which tests all your knowledge. It tests how much you know your undergraduate education well, and as well as you are prepared for grad school or not. It usually happens on the end of first year, and all the selectors or the professors, they want you to qualify this exam because they are funding you. The university is basically funding you.
Right,
So
right.
for that reason, they give CGPA the most important. If your GPA is
Mm-hmm.
good in that scale, then they will be quite happy to accept your application. If you
Right.
if you do not have that kind of GPA, or you can always try to have some good research profile. My research profile wasn't that good because I did only two internships and I didn't have any publications. But my GPA was kind of okay, and additionally, I had good recommendations from the professors I worked with. So
Mm-hmm.
the probably the third factor that comes into role here after GPA and recommendations is
Mm-hmm.
your GRE score, and GRE score
Right.
is like a gateway. So
Mm-hmm.
gateway in the sense you need a certain score to just qualify over. It's not like you need 340 out of 340, but it certainly helps if you have in the higher end. Like you say, you have above
Right.
300. I had about
Right.
327, if I remember, and my
Three
verbal,
twenty-seven.
yeah, 327, and my verbal
That is
was,
awesome. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I just prepared for like 2 3 months in the summer. That was enough. But my quant was good. My verbal was not that good. So yeah, so
Okay.
these are the main
Okay.
components. And finally, when you write the statement of purpose, try to show what research work you have done. You do not have to use very boastful language or very like ornamental language. I have seen that a tendency in a lot of students, but after coming here, I've read the statement of purposes of my colleagues who are from around
Mm.
here, and they are quite straightforward of what research work they have done and what they want to do. And also, you can always mention what courses you have done and how you have faced challenges and stuff like that. So it doesn't have to be very ornamental, but that usually
Right.
is that actually sums up. You have to just look for these 3 4 components.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So
So we have one question from our live chat.
mhm.
GRE and TOEFL score, and I guess you have answered GRE score, which is 327.
Yes,
And what was your TOEFL score? Yeah.
so GRE, the quant score was 170, the verbal was 157, and the TOEFL score was 113, out of which reading, listening, and there is another one, writing. Those were all 30
Mm.
and 30
Mm-hmm.
each. The speaking was 23. So I was actually the bare
Mm-hmm.
minimum qualify of Cornell. Cornell speaking was 22. So
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Right. Right. Okay. So on the same lines, how many publications did you have before applying?
So I didn't have any publications while I was applying, and I didn't either have any submitted publications. But my internships were all with, I will say, good research groups, and my undergraduate advisor
Mm-hmm.
was also prominent in his field. I published after
Mm-hmm.
I came here. My undergrad work got published after I came to Cornell. But again, like
Okay.
you always have to show in your statement of if you don't have publications, you always have to show in your
Mm-hmm.
CV and statement of purpose that you have some research experience. And how you do that is often by mentioning in your statement of purpose that, well, I went here and this was the hypothesis I had, this is the group I worked with, and this is the uh,
Mm-hmm.
procedure, the methods I used, and this is what I learned. Finally, what's the result? What did you
Right.
learn? And so where you went, why did you go there, what motivated you, what you did, and what were the results, what
Mm-hmm.
did you learn. Always try to mention that you learned how to work with other people in a team, because that comes off as something good. And you will often often if you go for research intensives, you'll see it's a teamwork often.
Mm-hmm.
uh, with that, also try to like whenever you are writing your statement of purpose, the especially the scientific research part, try to mention more of the scientific terms than generalized terms. So that helps to show that you have some caliber in writing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Um, uh, as you said, GRE is just a qualifier, right? So university is qualifying GRE score is maybe say 320, for example, right?
Mhm.
So, and if two students get 325 or and 330, right? How much difference would that make in their application profile?
I don't think it makes any more of a difference, because the way it goes nowadays is both GRE and TOEFL are seen as cutoff. Say the first application that comes through Cornell University that directly doesn't come to the Department of Chemical Engineering. It goes to the grad school
Mhm.
here, and they just
Okay.
see. if your TOEFL score is above that or GRE score is above a certain cutoff they have set in their mind, those cutoffs are not that high. Like the hyped, I think the hyped market for GRE is not that relevant. So
Okay.
my
Right.
colleagues here are all in the range of 310 to 330. So I won't say it's
Mm.
like very specific. You have to
Okay.
get
310 to 320, you mean, for
310 to
Cornell?
330. Yeah, for
Okay.
car.
Okay. Okay.
That's what I
Right.
have seen.
Right. Okay. So one more question from the live chat. What's the
Mhm.
possibility to get an admit for integrated MS PhD?
So actually, all PhD programs are integrated master's PhD. What happens is
Uh-huh.
you come here as a PhD student and you start doing your PhD work. In the second or third year, you will so after your you have a qualifying exam that determines whether you should stay in the PhD program or not. Then there is a exam which we call PhD candidacy exam. When you appear that,
Mm.
you basically become a PhD candidate that you are going to get your PhD now. But that once you qualify that exam, you are also in line to receive a master's. So what happens is in that
Okay.
exam form, it's always written, so, can you take the, so do you want the master's or not? So all programs are actually integrated master's PhD. Now the other route is they offer you a master program to get into like Stanford or MIT does, where you study there for 2 years, they look at your grades and then they say, well, now you can join our PhD. But that's an entirely different route. If you apply for PhD, the decisions usually come for the PhD and it comes with a
Mm.
master's and PhD.
Okay. Okay. Got it. So a lot of students are really interested in this subject, right, which they are studying,
Mhm.
but they're not really sure if they are interested enough to go for a PhD, right, 4 or 5 years, right,
Mhm.
commitment of 4 or 5 years, right. So
Mhm.
how should a student decide if he should go for a master's or a PhD if he is really interested in the subject?
So so there are three ones. Like there is MEng, which is getting more popular. So masters in engineering, which is 1 year program. Masters in science is 2 years, and PhD is 4 to 5 years or even longer. So the decision between a master's program in engineering or science or between a PhD is often depends on exactly what kind of jobs the student is going to take after he completes the program. I was mostly research oriented. I wanted a research and development job, and I didn't see how I could get that with a master's degree because master's is usually training you from your undergrad to little more to get into some higher end, I will say, engineering jobs like process engineering
Right.
or maybe something like in computer sciences, software engineering jobs. But if you want
Hmm.
to do
Hmm.
research and development, then I will say taking PhD route is easier and I will say also safer because you always have a funding source.
Right. 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 Okay.
So
So how has your experience been as a PhD student in Cornell? How was the shift in the education system like, the culture, and was it teaching style same as in India, or how was it different?
the teaching styles are actually quite different, I will say, because here the
Okay.
emphasis is more on like it's not so much as learning the book, like learning the lines and stuff in the book. It's more not about learning the formulas. It's more about
Hmm.
learning the subject. So what they do is they have continuous homework which comes every 2 weeks or 1 week, and the teachers
Okay.
actually put in a lot of efforts into their teaching material. They go
Hmm.
over everything. The expectations are usually much higher in the grad courses. Even though I took a
Hmm.
lot of like grad courses in IIT for just the higher
Hmm.
advanced ones, but after coming here I saw that I literally don't know much of what I should know going into a grad school. So it used to be harder. The courses are designed for you to try a lot hard, and that's why they try to
Hmm.
look at your GPA. That's why GPA is quite
Right.
important because they think if you do well there, you can do well here. So
Right.
yes, there is a difference, and I have enjoyed it. My friends have enjoyed it, so I think anybody who comes here will enjoy it. It's
Right. And there are many aspects to a particular application profile, right?
Mhm,
GRE, TOEFL, publications, CGPA,
mhm,
maybe some work experience, SOP, LOR, right?
Mhm.
How does these 6 or 7 things contribute towards the application of the candidate? What aspects are more important than others?
Mm, I will say it's the GPA, which is I will rank it the first. So GPA means not if you are in like top 5 or 6 of your department ranking and you have like a good enough GPA with some good grades in core courses, then you are actually relatively safer to get into top universities. And the next thing that comes after GPA is often the professor's recommendations. They can actually do a very good job in recommending. Like even if you don't have a good GPA, the professors can often say talk more about your caliber in research. They can tell how well you did in their research lab, how well you worked with seniors, how well you had your findings. So these two are the most critical component. Rest all I see as more of a qualifier. Say you have a higher GRE score, it doesn't make much of a difference. You have a higher TOEFL score, it doesn't make much of a difference. But if you have a good GPA, then it makes a lot of difference. If you want to get into top, say 50, I will say GPA and your recommendations are everything. So yeah, and
Okay.
I think people are often confused about statement of purpose. That also helps you to like choose between that range in top 50. But yeah, so the focus should be over 2 3 years to raise your GPA as much as possible. Hmm.
Right. Okay. So one more question from the live chat.
Hmm.
Usually PhD funding is low, so the admits would also be okay. Okay. So okay, I'll just summarize the question, right?
Hmm.
Um, a lot of students have deferred to the next intake, right? A lot of students who were going for fall 20 have
Hmm.
deferred to fall 21,
Hmm.
right? And the competition for the fresh applicants for fall 21 would be very high, right?
Hmm.
So do you advise them to still apply for 21 or wait till fall 22?
So see the job market and the universities here are not independent of the job market. They also respond to the job market very well. And the
Uh-huh.
job market had kind of a recession recently. It went,
Hmm.
it dipped a bit, but now it's coming back strong. Like I see a huge number of jobs like just showing up here and there on LinkedIn and everywhere. So it's coming up strong. And my advisor also agrees, who's the dean of the engineering. So yes,
Mm-hmm.
universities will respond accordingly, and they will take more number of students to fill up the gap they had this year. Additionally,
Mm-hmm.
many students who have deferred the admits are often funded by the fundings of 2020. They are not funded by 2021 funding. So university gets its funding. The grad school gets its funding for the entire year at the beginning of the year. So for 2021, it will
Hmm.
get a fresh round of funding, and that comes from
Hmm.
alumni, from research donations and stuff like that. So I certainly feel you should not worry about what happened in 2020. You should right away go ahead to apply in 2021. So yeah, that's not a worry at all, I will say. And
Okay.
Cornell at least has taken all PhD students it was admitting. So we invited them over to campus to start their research. I think for masters they may have deferred it because we are not having in-person courses, which is much more required for master students. They want to do more
Okay.
courses. Yeah.
Okay. So one more question from the live chat. For the field of battery research, which
Mhm.
courses are suitable after mechanical bachelor's?
So if you want to pursue, I will first say that your undergrad research field is not at all relevant to your graduate research field. They don't go up the same way. And if
Uh-huh.
you are laser focused on pursuing battery research, then it actually gets harder to get into university because the professors the professors want you to be much more flexible. Always mention this in your statement of purpose that you are more flexible to pursue anything that comes up your way. You can mention it in a better
Mm-hmm.
language by saying that it fits your appetite, any scientific research work. So but don't get laser focused on a topic. That becomes a harder for a university to match you with that topic, because there may be a lot more number of competitors. So, but the if you exactly want to do battery research, then I will suggest taking electrochemistry courses if they are offered in the chemical engineering department. In my undergrad, they weren't offered. So, and I wasn't prepared to do any battery. I was doing microfluidics. So
Uh-huh.
yes, so in here also in undergrad we don't have any electrochemistry courses. But if you get any chance to do any electrochemistry, electrophoresis, something related to electric field and chemical engineering, then you should certainly try it. But again, just so that you have done some research work, and don't so that you are going to do that exactly. So that you have done the research work and you're interested to work with few professors, but you're open to most of the opportunities that comes up your way. That way they think you are very flexible.
Right.
Mhm.
And so the research work which you do, which is which is linked to batteries, is it also related to the batteries which are used in Tesla cars or electric vehicles?
Yes, yes. So it's quite related actually, and I work more on the fundamental side because that's how university is. But we have an entirely applicative part of the group which just makes batteries for big firms like Panasonic or Duracell or Tesla. So
Wow.
yes,
Right.
that kind of exposure is there. It depends what you exactly want.
Right, right. And on the same lines, which you're saying that universities look for applicants who are flexible to try out different research
Hmm.
fields, right? Okay, right.
Hmm.
Just wanted to confirm that.
Yeah.
So, over the last 6 months, universities have been shut. The work has been all from home, right? How has
Mhm.
your research work changed, or what changes did you see in your university from the start of the pandemic?
So yes, so this start of the pandemic here was at about March 10th. I remember the university actually geared down all operations. Everything was closed, and then because the labs were closed, I had to work online. Online in the sense I was doing some simulations work, and
Hmm.
my previous background in simulations helped me a bit. But that went over
Right,
only 3 4 months, and there weren't any more much pressure to produce results because everybody understood kind of that we don't have the lab access, so whatever we do is just to get our things going, but not so much as to produce effective
right,
result. Then the lab opened up, so but that gave me a good time actually to think of where my PhD is going and what jobs I should start looking for, or what should I do next when I'm graduating. And then the labs opened up, and pretty much the research was back to normal. We had like shift hours where I went at I mostly have the night shift. I work from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. and I'm the only one in the lab, so it's easier for me. But that's like the changes post pandemic. You have to adjust to something new.
okay, okay,
Mhm.
right. So we have a big
Mhm.
question in the chats. I'll just pop it over here. Okay. How important is contacting professors by mail before applying for PhD? Yeah.
Mhm.
So first question. Okay. Some people say that only if a professor agrees to guide you, you have a good chance of getting an admit. So this is the
Mhm.
first part of the question. Is it important to contact the professor before applying for the PhD?
If you have a very stellar research profile, then if you contact the professor, he will probably reply back to you by saying, yes, your profile looks very good, and like my research group has similar orientation and we should work together. But that only happens if you have
Mhm.
quite stellar profile and the professor is going to read your email. Most of the time I have seen professors don't read your email, so you can keep
Okay.
mailing a lot of them, and
Right.
it's like spamming. And I didn't do any of this. Additionally, this part is tricky. Some professors may agree to guide you,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
not all universities get their funding. So when you join a university, the grad school funds you. So my funding was secured for 5 years because I applied to the grad school, I got into the grad school, and then I selected my professor, my advisor. if the
Mm-hmm.
professor selects you, often the grad school may not select you. So then what the professor says is that this person is kind of my responsibility. So the professor will pay you
Mm-hmm.
from the lab funding. So you won't be like, you will be enrolled with the grad school, but not with a complete funding for 5 years. It won't, like, you won't have a guarantee. And that often happens when the professor directly tries to take a student. And I will strongly suggest against that. That happens in a lot of universities here. I heard that Clemson University has a similar program where professors take students instead of the grad school. That's not at all secured. So just go straight ahead and apply on the application procedure, like the portal. That's the easiest thing you can do, and it will save your time as well as the professor's time. So yeah,
Right.
that's the long answer. Don't do it unless you have an exceptional profile and you think the university will love to have you here without your applications.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And the Black Lives Matter protest has forced us to think about the racism which Indians face in the US, right? So,
Mhm.
have you or any of your friends faced any um, racism in the US, or any of or any experience of your friend which you want to share?
So the good thing is most of the universities, the good universities, are in democratic states, the blue states, and we typically don't have that problem here. I cannot speak for all Indians staying here, but as far as I've seen, we are not the ones who are getting discriminated against most of the time. It's mostly, I will say, people of African origin, and not the Indian, like the Indian origins. So no, I have never faced any kind of discrimination here, at least.
And have you heard anyone who has faced discrimination of Indian origin? Maybe your friends of friends or anyone else.
Uh, Not that I know of. Like most of my
Okay.
friends are here around in Northeast or in California, which are actually
Hmm.
pretty good states for liberal education. I
Hmm.
am thinking maybe if you go towards some of the Midland states like Wyoming, Montana, or some states which have maybe, because they may
Okay.
not be used to
Right.
seeing a lot of Indians around there. But yeah,
Right.
no.
Right. 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 Okay. 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 Right. And between USA and Canada, right?
Mhm.
If you would have got into the best university in Canada, right? What would you have chosen between USA and Canada?
So I will choose United States anytime. The reason is first the funding offered here is much more. So I got into University of
Hmm.
Toronto. And funding they offered me is actually half of what I get here, like the stipend, and half of what I get is not even sufficient to like get me living here. So I will have to
Yeah.
depend on my parents, which I didn't
Right.
want. So yes, so anytime
Hmm.
United States. Additionally, the job market here is stronger than Canada because it's just a like lot of firms are here, so you can get into some jobs after completing your PhD. While on the other hand, Canada has more of a secluded job market. It does many
Hmm.
contacts with like big firms. It doesn't has a lot of big firms, I'll say that, and
Right.
though it's a very good place to live. I love Canada, by the
Hmm.
way, when I went there for intensives and stuff. But yeah, so funding and the opportunities you get is lower in there.
Okay. Right. Um, I just go through my list of questions which I had to, okay. Yeah. Work culture in India versus the US.
Mhm. Uh, It depends. For PhD, the work culture is much more relaxed, I will say. I stayed in Vidyasagar Hall and I was talking with so all my neighbors were PhD students there.
Uh-huh.
And they
Mm-hmm.
felt like the work they were doing was slightly more stressful than what I am doing. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but what I see I am doing now, it's much more relaxed. This
Right.
is actually a very broad question. It depends on the university you are dealing with, the lab you are dealing with, or maybe if you're going for a job, then the firm, the company you are dealing with. So it's actually a very broad question. I have, though I will
Mhm.
say that research and development jobs here are much more relaxed than process engineering jobs. So yeah,
Okay. Right.
that's usually
Right.
yeah.
Okay. So the last question which we have is, you
Mhm.
know, um, for students who are going to the US, right, what can be their long-term plan? Because maybe not everyone would get a green card, right? So what should they think of as their long-term plan and the best way to get a green card?
I see. So uh, if you get your PhD admit or even your master's admit, you come up with a F1 visa, which has a OPT, optional practical training, which lets you work in US without any visa requirements for 3 years straight after your graduation. And during your study, you will have a CPT, which is again like 2 years additional work. So you actually have, like, if you see effectively, my visa gave me like 5 years visa plus 3 years OPT. So I have 8 years here. And
Hmm.
after that ends, often the firms you join are trying to sponsor you. So most companies will like ask you when you are joining them that whether they want to, just let me move it because I'm getting a lot of sunlight.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure,
so
sure, sure. No
most
problem.
most companies will ask you whether you need to be sponsored in your future, the H1B visa. And if you reply yes, then they will pretty much tell you how much of spots they have left for H1B, because it's like a competitive process. But yeah, it's not that
Hmm.
difficult actually. I think you can pretty much stay here for as long as you want, till you have a work status. The visa is always getting sponsored for most Indians. It's not like we have any troubles here. Green card is much more tricky. I wouldn't have made this statement 20 years ago, but yeah,
Uh-huh.
it has become much more tricky. Uh, the easiest way for research people, they see how much contributions you make, like how much research papers you have
Mhm.
published, and that's how they actually go for the green card entire application. This has changed after Trump came. He wants more and more like
Mhm.
best merits. Uh,
Hmm.
so I don't think you should aim for a green card unless you want to stay here for 15, 20 years, or you have some other routes of like getting it by marriage or something. But yeah, I will not suggest you to. But you can often stay here on a
Right.
visa for very long.
Okay, okay, right. Okay, on the same lines, what do you think the 2020 US elections, can affect international students? How will 2020 elections affect the international students if Trump or the other guy comes into the power?
So let me just think about this, and I will open a window, else open the blinds.
Okay,
Just give
sure,
me a second.
sure, 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 no problem.
Okay, should be slightly better. Nah, it's fine. I'm still happy.
Okay,
So,
okay,
so Trump or Biden won't affect the. It's fine. Yeah, so this better.
I,
Yeah, so, so Trump or Biden won't affect the US elects the admission, the grad admissions, at least for Indians. So you don't need to worry
Mhm.
about that. It will be what we are seeing here is more. It's affecting East Asians, I will say Chinese people and some of the Korean people, but no. Indians, you should not care. I was also very worried because when I came here, Trump was getting elected, right? So 2000,
Right, right.
yeah, but it didn't affect us at all. Nothing changed, and I saw a lot of my friends making conscious decisions to go to Europe or like
Mm,
countries, but I didn't see any change. I was also like I was very worried about this, so I kept asking all my seniors how it will be, but it doesn't feels like anything. The most
right, right.
the reason is US has a very strong like university institutions. Cornell
Mm,
has a very robust like mechanism to keep its students safe from anything, actually anything. So it's the
okay,
universities here have much more like strong system.
right,
So you don't
right,
need to
right.
worry about that at all.
So we have a question in the
Mhm.
live chat on the same lines, which is how would you compare research in the US to Europe or Germany?
So Europe is a fixed visa research. Say they gave you for 3 years, and in 3 years you have to complete. So all visas they give is for 3 years, and in 3 years you have to pretty much complete all of your research work. So it's actually quite challenging if I tell you to do your PhD in 3 years. And most of the
Hmm.
students there publish like one paper or so, and they try to graduate because that's what they expect you to do. But the problem is, after
Hmm.
graduating from Europe, Germany universities, you will get a job there. Most of them get, but the
Hmm.
profile is not that like well formed for a research development job. So it often gets challenging to move up the ladder. Additionally, Europe, Germany doesn't has that good stipend as that of US. Uh,
Hmm.
so these two are the main factors, like the restricted visa kind of stuff, and the also I think another factor is the language. You have to strongly consider
Okay.
that you are going to you are English speaking, like second language is mostly English speaking for all of us. And if you go to any country in that entire European Union except the United Kingdom, you'll have to
Hmm.
like be you'll need to learn their language, which is I think extra assignment or extra homework
And
for
now UK is obviously not in Europe right now. So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So
crazy thing. Okay. Okay. So one last question, and a lot of students have been asking this. Do
Mhm.
you see the intake of Chinese students decreasing over the next few years?
I think it
Very controversial question, but yeah.
yes, it's decreasing, but not due to entirely visa restrictions. It's mostly because
Hmm.
China is developing very rapidly. So they are doing actually very well there. They have good
Hmm.
universities which students are preferring to go. So that's actually I think one of the prominent reasons. And I have seen Chinese students coming here doing their PhD and going back straight to China to become a professor there with very high pay grades and stuff.
Okay.
So yes, so
Right.
that's the
Right.
main reason. So again, it doesn't matters what happens to China for Indian students because we just need to focus on getting here.
Right. Right.
This
So,
kind of
so the Chinese students don't are not really looking for, H1B or green card, is it? As much as Indian students.
yeah, because they are actually quite open that they can go back to China and work comfortably. Also, other reason is they are more sentimental towards their culture, being the language being very prominent, the Mandarin. That's what they speak all the
Okay.
time. Unlike us, we blend in here quite well because we can somewhat more culturally relate here. That's what I've seen.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
yes. So I won't say. So
Okay.
I will say Chinese students are decreasing the number of.
Okay.
That.
Okay. 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 Right.
Mhm.
Right. 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 So yeah. So yeah, Prayag, that was it, right?
Mhm.
I guess we have answered all the questions in the live chat and also the questions which we got from Instagram. I'll just check once again. I think
Mhm.
we got one question from Instagram during the chat itself, during the live
Sure, sure,
itself.
sure.
Okay, yeah, that's it. So we have covered all the questions. Thank you,
Mhm.
Prayag, for joining us. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll be having more such sessions in the coming days. Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks,
Thank
Prayag.
you.
Thanks again.
Thank you, guys.
Okay,
Have a good day.
okay.
Bye.
Just a second.
Sure.